at that. Today I'm remembering to push all the buttons.
I was going to say, silence is not golden, Scott.
All right. It's just the warm-up, anyways.
Oh, okay.
Good morning. It's KCHW 102.7, 722 on a Wednesday. Oh, why am I so peppy? Should stop that.
Oh, no.
Oh,
man.
I got up early and everything.
You're all prepared this morning?
Yeah, don't say that, though. You don't say that.
Oh.
Something will break.
Okay.
All right. I'll go test our feed to the webcams and to YouTube and Facebook, and they won't be there or something. Don't curse us, and we'll check it because you get to hear us again. And to YouTube and Facebook, and they won't be there.
So are we on
See?
Facebook? Are we on?
We're on. We're on.
We're
fully loaded. Everything's streaming today, hopefully without hiccups. Think
Okay.
I might have kicked that a little and got it working. All right, so let's start off with some weather before we get to all of our important stuff today. 31 for a high temperature. That's right, 31. Brr. Cloudy skies, some partial clearing this afternoon. That's right, maybe an unofficial sighting of the sun like we had the other day. And talking to my sister yesterday on the show from Deer Park, on Monday we had all that nice sunshine. She said they got none in Deer Park.
Really?
Yeah, wah, wah, wah. 19 for an overnight low tonight, partly cloudy skies. Going to be cold again. In fact, the next couple nights, cold at night. Tomorrow, 34 and 18 under partly cloudy skies. Friday, 35 and 19 under partly cloudy skies. Right now, the weekend, mostly cloudy for Saturday, 34 and 23. And then on Sunday, 33 and 23 with snow showers expected at 60%. Monday right now, 33 and 17 with some morning clouds and some afternoon sun. I should mention that for the next 3 days, including today, we have an 8% chance of snow.
Ooh, it snowed up here just a little bit last night.
And yesterday we had that little skiff too, so.
Right, yeah.
Just
well, what that does is it makes everything white again, so it doesn't look so dirty.
Yeah, but it does glaze the roads real nice too, especially when the temperature doesn't go over 31.
That's true.
Get those slick spots. All right.
Well, you got to keep those body shops, repair shops in business.
Yeah. Fix my dents. All right. Let's see, Mike. You got a special guest booked for today, don't you? Tell us about that.
I do. Our new mayor, Greg McCunn, is going to be on around 8 o'clock, and we, just a little bit of prep on that. Primarily, we're going to. I think we're going to visit with him about his first month in office, kind of what's going on there. And then we'll move over to some of the things he said he was going to get done and how they're going to get done.
All right.
I do know that one of his goals was to visit with people throughout the Chewelah area and get their ideas. And so I'm one of those people. I get to meet him tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And I think what he's trying to do, well, I know what he's trying to do is try to get everybody on the same page, which that alone, if he can get it done, is well worth having somebody in that position that way. So, but I have to tell you, I talked to Jim Caruso yesterday and I said, okay, you going to send me questions for Greg to answer? And he goes, why? I go, well, we like to be prepared and, stuff like that. He goes, no problem. Greg's really good at that. So Greg texted me last night and he says, what do I need to do? And I says, nothing. Caruso says you're always prepared.
So we'll just give him the microphone and take a nap and let him go.
That's right. All exactly. Right. We're going to have a cup of coffee, maybe order in a little breakfast.
And I've got our next Wednesday booked too. If you haven't already, hope we don't.
I have not.
All right.
Who do you have?
All right. So for our next Wednesday, it'll be a first Thursday art walk, the kickoff of Winterfest for Tim Nelson and the Trails End Gallery, and this will be his fourth time on the radio, I think, from Seattle. Professor Greg Anderson.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think I met him. He was there once before in the studio, wasn't he?
Yeah. He is so much fun. He is actually the only person that's made me reach for the emergency cuss button.
That's right. I remember that. Yep, exactly.
Yeah. He's the reason we have a delay, but he's quite a character and always fun and a great guy.
Oh, right.
So they'll be kicking off the Winterfest, which means all you artists get ready to make submissions, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Show off your stuff. All right, we got weather, we got a couple teases in, and we'll turn to Mr. Bentz and get the lowdown on all the nonprofits that he's got his little fingers in. Don't forget, this is always a good day to send us an email before Wednesday if you've got an event coming up. Go to our website at kchw.org, go to the contact page, and there's a whole form you can fill up. You can even attach your flyer to it. And
Really?
let us know about an event you have coming up. I have somebody that did just that thing, Mike, and I'll throw it out real quick. You can join the Pend Oreille and Stevens County Conservation Districts in collaboration with the Soil Health Stewards Group to discover some of the leading local science and action from farms and farmers near us. They're going to have multiple presentations on topics ranging from soil health and regenerative farming to agroforestry. Lunch will be provided with each ticket purchase. Morning pancake feed is optional. And they'd like a minimum donation of $5. This is coming up in Clayton at the Grange on February 26th at 10 a.m. from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. with the breakfast from 8:30 to 9:30 if you want to do that. You have questions, it's 509-447-1155. Get signed up. 509-447-1155. I know how many farmers I have that listen to me.
Okay.
Just saying.
Just
saying. All right, where are we starting today, Mr. Bentz?
Oh, you brought up Winterfest, so I'm just going to throw something out there that's unique coming up next on the 1st. Have you seen the flyer that Tim put together for the first Thursday?
I have not.
Oh, it's got trails in there, and it's got the Kun Gallery in there, but it's got a new one in there.
Okay.
Jesse from Sporties is going to be doing a presentation on culinary arts.
Oh, all right.
So you can just walk across the alley.
Nice.
I thought that was really cool, actually.
Yeah.
So,
and that is a form of art which we haven't talked about. Right.
That's right.
Right.
That jumped out at me.
Okay.
So, but anyway, so let's get rolling on the chamber. We have our stay and play going, and it's a couple of tickets to skiing, some nights at Nord Lake, all kinds of different coupons for meals, some chamber bucks. Really, really nice package. And all you need to do is go to Chewila.org and you can enter into that contest. And even if you're local, we're encouraging you to enter it and then give it away to get somebody to come into town. Or if you got somebody you'd like to have come in town, go ahead and enter it and see if they get the package. And that'll run through the 20th of February.
All right.
We changed that a little bit because of the golf show. We figured that why cut it off just before we're going to be in front of 5,000 or 6,000 people. So it didn't make sense, right?
Sure.
Especially out of town. So, and the golf show, it reminds me, if you'd like to volunteer, we'd love to have some people help us out at the golf show. Sandy's got shifts lined up for both Friday and Saturday, or Saturday and Sunday, the weekend before President's Day. And not only will pick up your tab to get into the golf show, but you've got the opportunity at the same time, they're going to have the outdoor show. So you'll be able to do two things at once. And so give Sandy a call at 935-8595, or you can go on, you can send her an email at info@chewila.com and she'll get in touch with you and see what your availability is.
All right.
The next promotion we're coming up with in February will be a Valentine's Day promotion. There'll be 2 or 3 of the restaurants will be running specials the weekend before Valentine's Day because Valentine's Day is on a Monday. And Scott, just for your knowledge, that's the 14th of February.
I'm not concerned.
Okay. But so we're promoting it as a Valentine's weekend. So that look for that coming out here probably next week would be my guess. I think that's almost done. Then, of course, last but not least, we have lots of chamber bucks available.
Ooh.
And I stopped by and saw Sandy yesterday for a few minutes, and she said the amount of chamber bucks coming back into her for reimbursement was unreal, that's what we want. Because when you get a chamber buck and you use it or you give away as a gift, that money has to be spent back in Chewila. And then the way that works is we do not take a premium. So Scott, if you give me $100 in chamber bucks and I use it to give it back to you, say as a donation at the radio station, so it's $100 is $100. There isn't a $5 or $10 fee to be able to process that. So we do not use it as a fundraiser.
All
so
right.
it's which is unique in itself. So
All right, so I can do this. Chamber bucks, Chihuahua's Bitcoin.
I love that, actually. So what are we going to call it? Let's see, Chain Dodge?
Yeah, we'll have to work on that one. That's a tough one.
Maybe we'll run a contest. How are we going to?
Yeah.
Except it doesn't go up and down in value.
That's right.
It's
But
better
it's still,
than that.
but it's still something to invest in.
That's true.
Yeah.
In fact, it's a guaranteed investment if you think about it.
At least you're going to get your money back.
At least you get your money back. Yeah, I read a thing. It was yesterday. Some NFL player took all of his pay in Bitcoin,
And then it dropped drastically.
Well, it dropped drastically. Not only he's in California, but let's say in this case he got $750,000 in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin in itself is down about 45 or 50%. So that means it's only worth $375, right?
Ooh, ouch.
But he gets taxed at the full 750.
Oh, colossal bad idea.
Yeah, it's a bad idea. So take 40% off of 750, and now you're down to about 300. And he lives in California, so take the California state income tax off of that, and he's made about minus 75% on his wage.
Oh, that's gotta hurt. Ouch.
Yeah, that's what.
And he could have taken that almost $500,000 and just donated it to somebody, right? Or some organization
like
instead of
KCHW.
Yeah, instead of burning it up on Bitcoin. Wow.
Exactly.
Wow.
So, I had somebody tell me a long time ago that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is.
Yes.
So
he thought he was going to make bank.
Let's move on to the Creative District.
Okay.
We were running this survey on the Creative District, trying to define down a little bit further on what projects we're going to put together for the grant. And the survey came to an end yesterday. So over the next 3-4 days, we'll be determining what we're going to do for grants. So I'll be able to announce that next Wednesday. And at that point, we already know how much we're going to get. It's a little over $13,500. And we need to match that at 50%. So we'll start a campaign at that point to get people to help us out with that. I do know there'll be at least one mural because we do have a family that's sponsoring a mural. And so, beyond that, it's just depending on what the community tells us. I mean, I know that in there's utility box wraps, and there's murals, and there's benches, and signage. And I mean, there's listed about 12 or 15 things, but I think the top 3 or 4 or 5 are going to be in that realm. And then, as you know, we've rented an office space from Lynn Husby there, right? You're next, in your building. So
welcome,
we'll be moving in.
Welcome to the thanks. 3rd Street Mall.
3rd Street is that. And so we'll be moving in over the next 10 days or so to move in there to have a physical presence in downtown, because right now we're kind of a virtual presence.
So the big room attached to that smaller office, is right up against our studio. So just tell anybody that's in there, if they hear the thump, thump, thump coming through the wall, don't call me. Okay.
Okay. But yeah, we're pretty excited about that because at this point, we've been basically running the district out of 3 homes. And so now we'll be able to pull it all together. And that just makes it more real, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yep.
I actually have a call with Julia Havens from the Washington State Department of Commerce. So you probably remember her. She worked with the city about 2 years ago?
Yes.
On the New Approaches program. And we're going to talk about funding for an artist co-op and see what's available at the state level. She sounds really excited about it. So I'll be really interested to see what she has to say. And we're in the process of updating our website. And in the website, you'll see the mural tour. It's kind of hidden yet. I think we'll get that fixed in the next week. But if you go up under special projects and drop down there, you'll see mural tour, and you pop that up. And there's a brochure you can print out. There's a little contest you can do. and it's got, I believe, 12 or 15 of the murals around town are in there, and a little bit of descriptions on them. Which, I brought that up at the chamber meeting a week ago, and somebody says, we have that many murals around town? So,
yes, we do.
and yes, we do. And thanks to Sharon Ludwig and Gino, we have the history on them, because some of them have been around a while. But so that's the first piece that we put together, and that's primarily for two reasons. One is that's been our focus. The other one is we are now part of the Selkirk Loop, the Creative District is. And for those people that don't know what the Selkirk Loop is, it's an international byway that's recognized for people to visit. Primarily goes up and down the Pend Oreille and over into northern Idaho and northwestern Montana. But Chewelah is considered a super side trip. And so we're basically piggybacking on top of that nomenclature of a super side trip. And when I talked to the lady that runs that, she said, we're trying to figure out a way that Chewelah is no longer a super side trip. It's part of the trip. And and I think that's probably going to happen personally, just because we got so many things going on in Chewelah and the A to Z project and, the revitalization of downtown, the creative district, et cetera, et cetera. So,
and working things in like that, then we come back around to the question of having enough rooms for tourists when they come through and stuff.
Right.
And I see that because most of the time you go through Chewelah, there's like no vacancy signs on our motels. So tough place can be a tough place to find a room if there's stuff going on. But I noticed there's a whole bunch more equipment and a whole bunch more digging going on out at the casino.
Yeah, last Friday's the first time, because the equipment's been there for a while.
They added a whole bunch.
Working.
Yeah, they added a whole bunch more. And now there's big old piles of dirt and stuff. So things are happening.
Right. Fantastic. Wow. Well, and this isn't a done deal yet, but we're, the Washington Tourism Alliance has been rebranded. It's called the Washington State Tourism Board now, because it has, I think, more state funding than it used to. And we're looking at trying to get them to hold a meeting here in Chewelah. I actually met with them late yesterday afternoon at the golf course, because they need a larger room to be able to do that. And so we'll see how that within the next week or two, and that'll just give us more exposure too. Mm-hmm. And then that's tied into a different program. And I think what I'll do is see if I can get Shelley Stevens on the radio. Because they're looking at rebranding Northeast Washington, and I don't want to talk about that because she's one of the drivers behind that. She's way more knowledgeable about what that program does and things like that. So, but I think what people, if I have one piece of advice to people is it's kind of like that old adage of a duck sitting on a lake. It seems like it's going nowhere, but the underneath, the feet are just paddling. And that's kind of what's been happening over the last 6 months in Chewelah. It looks like, because it's the winter and how things kind of slow down and, you don't see as much activity, but believe me, there's a lot of activity going behind the scenes. Tremendous amount of activity. Right. Let's see, we got the golf course. It's really hasn't changed a whole lot. Winter sports are still going up here.
And you should put the word always free in front of that. Free winter sports.
Yeah, it's free. It is actually. Yeah. The only request we have is you park in the parking lot by the clubhouse, and basically there's a map and some kind of rules of the course and things like that right inside the foyer and into the clubhouse. It's open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. When the restaurant's open, and we'll offer free coffee or hot chocolate. And then, of course, if you want to grab a bite to eat, we're always there from that perspective too during those hours. We're going to be on the Valentine's promotion coming up that I mentioned, and Sean and Brittany are putting together a dinner for two with champagne, surf and turf type thing, lobster and some kind of steak, both for the 11th and the 12th. So, Scott, if you can bring that virtual date, you can have both meals.
Scott shows up with a cardboard cutout of some hot girl from the 80s.
Yep, exactly. And then the last thing I want to talk about is
I got one question, though.
Okay.
Is I'm going to guess, because it's like a lot of melting and freezing, that your guys' sled, because you can cross-country ski, snowshoe, and sled, correct?
Correct.
All right. I'm betting the sledding hill is real slippery.
I haven't been over there. There's a couple of them that will steer people to, and I haven't been over to the steeper one of the two. But basically, if you want to practice your Olympic skills in sledding,
There you go.
that would be a good one.
All right.
And have you ever done the Lions up here when they do the golf thing in September?
I have not.
Okay, well, that's the hill where you roll a bowling ball down the course,
Okay.
and it is long enough, steep enough, and wide enough that the last time I did it from one of the tee boxes, I bowled for the green, and it made it to the green, which is like 400 yards.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's kind of scary.
And if you do the math, that's like a quarter of a mile.
Before you let the bowling ball go, do you yell, clear?
Yeah, it's probably you can see the whole thing.
Okay,
So,
yeah. Run for your
uh,
lives.
but it's a great sledding hill,
Okay.
and like I say, they'll be able to point you to where it's at inside the clubhouse, because it's not on the map because it's relatively flat. For the cross country course and stuff, which is great for families. We get really positive responses from people who bring up their families because it's really pretty easy the way cross country goes. And I think I mentioned last week, we had a person that I was talking to that came up here and they did a little over 5 miles. So I'm thinking, boy, they're in better shape than I am.
Wow. Yeah, no kidding. Huh?
Yeah. Let's see. The one thing I really wanted to talk about and really encourage people is the current play going on at Nothing. I think it's Nothing Lose Productions at the Packet Building. Is the Love, Laughter, and Lasagna.
Okay.
And Loretta and I went to that Saturday night, and I tell you, if they have any tickets open, I'd go get them. It was phenomenal. I mean, it was just over the top. Very well acted, very well written. Catherine Patton, who's been on the show twice talking about it, did a great job of putting direction into it. And it goes anywhere from you're laughing your butt off to you're crying in parts of it. And I'm not going to give away the plot line, but I would highly recommend people, if there's any tickets available. I think they have. I still think they have 3 shows this weekend: one Friday night, one Saturday night, then the Sunday matinee type thing.
Yes.
But it's so worth it. I mean, I had
And you got the title wrong. It's called Over the River and Through the Woods.
Oh, okay.
And,
all right.
And I noticed you said that last week too, and I was like, Love, Laughter, and Lasagna. Where did he get that from?
Well, that's because it's on top of their advertising. It says Love, Laughter, and Lasagna.
Oh, that's because they have the dinner theater.
Oh, okay.
It's not the title of the play.
Okay.
You old guys. Wow.
Well, at my age,
kidding.
you focus in on love, laughter, and food.
Yeah. All right. If you want to check on tickets, it's our.show. So our.show /Chihuahua/OTR. Or you can just go to the website at Chihuahua Center for the Arts.
Right. Well, and I believe you can still get them at Valley and Acres too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and because of the COVID restrictions, they can't fill the place up. Like if you're familiar to the last time they did stuff before COVID, they said, I think Sharon said like 150 people in there. And it's about half of that because it's very COVID friendly from that perspective.
Yes. And they do ask you to wear your mask and keep it on. So be prepared.
Yeah, they do. And that's to keep them open. I mean, they could theoretically be shut down if they have issues. And
so don't grumble because you get to go to a play. And if they weren't doing that, it'd be horrible. So just cooperate and don't grumble.
Yeah. Well, I know I was visiting some people that I know that basically come up to me and said they'd never been to one of these. They've lived in Chihuahua for about 3 years now. And they said, I had no idea what the quality of this theater was until they went to that.
And that speaks to the directors and stuff and the actors.
Right.
To be at a community play and, like you said, actually be brought to tears.
Right.
And I'll say that too is I was blown away the first time I went to one of Janet's. Now I'm going back some years, but one of Janet's high school plays, and having it was Helen Keller, and having the actress just move me to tears at a high school play, and I'm just sitting in the chair bawling, hoping
Yeah.
nobody's looking at me. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to give away the plot line, but there's two characters in the play that you're rooting for, and the end of it is surprising.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
You know,
So there's some twists,
and
is what you're saying. All right.
yeah, yeah, and then one of the, and I'll give one of them a kudo. Dave Tupac is in this play, and he's just this guy comes up and taps him on the shoulder. Is that Dave Tupac? And I go, yeah. Man, he needs to keep that hair. He looks like really distinguished.
All right, Dave, there you go. Finally distinguished.
But yeah, anyway, go see it. That's all I can say. I mean, it's well worth and the ticket prices are just astronomically too low. So
yeah, they need to bump those up a little bit. I think they can handle it. Yeah, I mean, I think the city can handle it, or the I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think the people in town can handle a little steeper ticket price because it is supporting an amazing cause.
Oh yeah. As I've gotten to know Sharon over the last several years because of the Creative District, it's unreal what this community's been able to do with that organization. I mean, it's just.
And you mentioned you'd also had the title to the play wrong, and then you had the wrong group doing this play. So this is Park Avenue Players doing the current play. But
I'm just terrible.
You're just terrible with this. So yeah, but Nothing to Lose Productions is kind of a conglomeration of the ladies of theater in Chewelah. I think it's Janet McLaughlin, Jessica Setti, and Chris Carpenter, and those are the little shows like the comedy shows and the singer series and that kind of stuff, and they're putting those together just to support the theater.
Yeah.
Just to keep those doors open and the place going. So.
I think they've got something going almost every week, if not close to that.
Yeah, there's a I was just on the website. There's a big schedule. Go check it out for stuff coming up in April. I know Stage Time Junior has Matilda in April. There's some more plays coming up. Joe Wolzinski's film festival. A lot of stuff on the lineup coming up all the way into May. I was looking at stuff right there, just glancing at it. So check it out and see what they're doing and what's coming to town in Chewelah. Center for the Arts.com. All right.
Okay. All right. Well, I got my plug in, whether it was right or wrong. I still got it in.
All right. I'm going to do a little radio update because I am so excited. Back in September, I had to do all the paperwork to relicense the radio station. And I haven't received the official license in the mail yet, but I see on their website that we've been granted a continuation of our license until 2030. Sounds like a long ways away, but it's really not. But an 8-year extension on our license, so that's very, very exciting. We also, so this is part of Scott's road to retirement. I have a new station manager set to begin training in February and take over the reins in April. So really excited about that. A few months back, I did a post on Facebook of different places. I have an individual that's going to help out with underwriting, which some people would call our commercials, but they're really not commercials. They're thank you announcements for donations since we're a 501c3. So I have somebody that'll make those new thank you announcements all lined up. Somebody that said they will participate in underwriting. I have one more volunteer position to fill. And that is somebody willing to, and it sounds scary, but willing to be our engineer. But it's really not like you need a degree in engineering, because anything that comes up that's too complicated or climbing the tower is hired out. So it's just somebody to go up there and manage the project, to be there to let the crew in, make sure everything goes all well, do some testing. You might have to do some rewiring. So it's really the technical skills needed for that one, or somebody that can install, take out a dead computer and put in a new one. Understands basic grasps of networking and hooking up a home stereo. I mean, other than that, if that the transmitter cooks on us, it gets shipped off and repaired. That's on my dream list too. I don't think I'll accomplish it before I go, but to have a backup transmitter in place, they're really expensive. The one we had cost $12,000, but that's on my wish list. And but it was so definitely my little road to retirement moving along. Excited that Michelle Williams is going to be our new station manager. I think that's the first time I've said it on the radio. So
yeah,
happy,
I think
Michelle.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. And, so things moving along there, and excited that I could put things in place. We have a new contract with our tower, the people that own the tower, Inland Cellular. It used to be Ecliptics, but Inland Cellular owns the tower, and then they lease out space to other people. So as well as, I think, New Beam's up there, the old country station that isn't I don't know what they're doing now. I don't even tune in. But they're up there, and we're on that tower as well, and working on a new 5-year lease with them that should be wrapped up any day now. So it feels good for me to get these kind of things, because I'm really ready to retire after, we might have been, we're coming up on our 10th birthday, so that's kind of was my goal.
Right.
Instead of a 5-year mission, it was a 10-year mission. And I started 2 years before that. And I've taken on, sometimes when you start a baby, you take on too much of it yourself. And that's kind of what I did, because I was the one in town that had, the broadcasting experience. So a lot of the FCC stuff, the music licensing stuff, I've even been doing like the billing and stuff like that. And I'm horrible at those kind of things. So it's really not. Oh, and I have somebody that's going to take over billing and memberships, it looks like, too. So that's really exciting. I took on too much myself. And then I think there's the past couple of years of COVID and being locked down pretty much by myself in this building, I just took the last of it out of me. Maybe I'll recover
Right.
and come back someday. Definitely stay on the board and help, because, just even like the wiring, if you look at what I did, they're going to need help.
see what that is that's job security.
Yeah. And I've had some requests to keep the morning show going, and I am moving to the other side of the planet, but there's no reason we still can't do some kind of morning show or stuff too. And I've even been picking on Mike to say, if I decide not to do the morning show anymore, Mike, why don't you pick it up yourself? I think Mike would do great. You've done a radio show before this.
Right.
And I think people like Wednesdays and like the information that you bring in. And you could just have a different guest every Wednesday, even if you shortened it to an hour show, I think, and just interviewed a local person and covered the stuff that you have from the groups you're involved in and whatever people send you for events. I think you could do a good show, and you got a great voice. So there you go. That's my plug, and trying to convince Mike that if I disappear totally, to do a radio show. But I don't think I can disappear totally, because out of all the things I do around here, this right here, me and you, is my favorite. Doing the morning
really?
show. It's my favorite.
Okay.
That's what I look forward to. You think I look forward to billing? You think I look forward to filling out reports for record companies? No. This is the fun
what I
stuff.
look forward to?
What's that? Sleep?
Getting PM messages from Brandon Hansen saying, "Tell Scott I'll be his date."
I wonder what Morgan's going to think about that. But yay, I got a date for he means Valentine's, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Brandon.
So now it's been on the air. It's been listened to by millions worldwide. Scott now has a date.
All right, and I want to share that a girl in a flower print dress always turns me on. So,
okay.
So he's gonna need to find a dress and look like a girl. Okay. And I'm not gonna make any ginger jokes.
Oh, come on.
All right. I've always wanted to date a redhead. Okay, I think we're all the way through the community stuff. Let me check in and see if anybody posted any of the events on the Facebook page for us. No. All right, so just a little bit. We're going to be connecting with our new mayor of Chewelah, and kind of find out what he's got on his agenda for the town, right?
Okay.
All right. And until then, I get to mess with Mike. That's right.
The following program is closed captioned for the thinking impaired.
That's right. Let's pick on Mike Benz.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
Yes, we've got Arnold here, and he's going to be breaking your knuckles up if you don't get all the questions right. Oh, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. All right, we're starting off. I'm having a hard time scrolling to where I want to be, so bear with me for a second. Here we go. Your first trivia question for today is the average American takes 12.2 minutes to do this.
Ooh,
And
it's gotta be
usually happens, I'd say most of the time it happens in the morning.
in the morning.
Yes.
Okay. Well, it's going to have to do with the bathroom. There's all kinds of things that take 12 minutes in the bathroom.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm going to say take a shower.
It is take a shower. Men take an average of 11.4 minutes, and women take an average of 13 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yes. All right. Trivia. In a typical home, 23% of water is used for what?
Ooh. It's man, in my house, I'd say cooking.
You know, and I just
23.
picture Loretta with like 4 arms going like this in the kitchen and stuff flying everywhere.
Exactly. 23% of the water in a household is used for cleaning.
It is. I'll take cleaning, laundry, and dishes. There you go.
Oh, really?
All right. So far, Arnold is not coming after you. You know, that'd be a pretty good match off, though, because you're probably about the same. You're probably even taller than Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Than him, yeah.
It's just your muscles are all in a different spot.
Well, his are all falling.
Well, yours have fallen.
Oh, okay.
Right into the center section, kind of like mine. Wait a minute.
Right.
All right. 1 in 5 adults say they'll never eat what?
Ooh. 1 in 5 adults will never.
It's one of the food group. It's like an entire food group.
Really?
Yeah. I'm surprised at this. That's horrible. It's so
vegetables.
No.
Fruit?
Fruit. Correct. Wow. 3 for 3. All right.
Yeah. Well, I'm married to somebody that doesn't like fruit.
Wow. How can you not like fruit?
I don't know.
All right. Breakfast bingo. You remember how this works? I'm gonna ask you a question, and you've got to give me an answer that will help spell the word bingo.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, last week I spelled Ingo.
Yeah, well, it wasn't good.
Wasn't good.
Part of your body that fills up when you drink water.
Belly.
Oh.
Bladder.
There you go. An irritation of the skin that induces a desire to scratch.
Hives. Oh, no, it starts with I, right?
Yeah.
Itch.
I don't know what word he's spelling, ladies and gentlemen, but let's wait and see. You breathe through one.
Nose.
Yeah. Where some people park their cars.
Garage.
What the space shuttle does around the Earth in space.
Orbit.
There you go. You spelled bingo. Or how would it have worked out if you would have left the H in there? Bingo.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, all right. It was a good attempt. All right.
The H is silent. So, bingo.
Yeah. The H is silent in bingo. Okay, I'm going to use that again someday. Well, the average president has dozens. George Washington had just one of these when he died. This is so weird. The average president has dozens. It's true. But that's very misleading. George Washington had just one of these when he died.
I would say like a secret surgeon, a bodyguard.
No, sir. It's something on his body. Or not on his body, I guess.
Oh, okay. Now you threw me off.
I don't want to die like this. That's all I know.
Yes, dozens, and he only had one. Houses.
No, kind of. What's the joke about the wood thing?
Trees?
No, there was like the joke of George Washington had wooden false teeth. So when he died, he had just one tooth. That's no way to die.
I would have never gotten that one.
Oh. Hey, if I die with one tooth and have an open casket, please make me smile.
Put a little toothpick in there or something.
Yeah, chiclet or something.
Everybody
yeah.
can see your one tooth.
Yeah. Or if nothing else, pop the falsies out and put a chiclet in. I'll go with that.
Okay.
All right. It's estimated the average person does this 22 times a day. It happens in the kitchen.
22 times a day in the kitchen.
In the kitchen.
It opens the refrigerator.
Wow, dude! You are nailing the trivia questions today. I think that's 4
Really?
for 4
That
on
was
Real
right?
Trivia. Yeah, it was right.
Oh.
All right. Well, about a dozen of these are used by the U.S. Postal Service in Alaska for mail delivery.
Sled dogs.
Oh, that's a good guess. But you just blew
The
one.
snowmobiles.
No, but another good guess. Think.
Planes.
There you go. Didn't even need to give me.
I'm going through, planes wouldn't have been my first choice. But.
What could it be?
Yeah.
All right, a couple more. Over 400 people die in the U.S. each year while doing this. It happens
Listening to KCHW.
I was going to say, it happens in the morning. And you picked our show. Nice, Mike, nice.
In the morning, taking a bath.
My mom broke her ankle doing this. Over 400 people die in the U.S. each year while doing this.
Getting out of bed.
Yeah, wow. How'd you come up with that?
Well, I'm just visually thinking, okay, where would I die? Well, one of them would be, in the taking a shower in the bathtub, but there's probably a way higher number for that.
Any kind of, really the bathroom, just any kind of any slip and fall accident in the bathroom could take you out. Forget about dropping the, blow dryer into the tub.
Right. Yeah.
What do swim fins, the odometer, and bifocals have in common?
They've got swim fins, odometer, and bifocals.
Yeah, focus on the bifocals if you know anything about them.
They're two different levels of being able to see a line across them.
No, all those things, the odometer, swim fins, and bifocals were invented by the same person. That's a big hint.
Really?
But if you know who did the bifocals, you'd have it.
Benjamin Franklin.
There you go. Look at that. Wow. 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 And this time, Loretta didn't even have to come by and thump you in the back of the head. Huh.
That's right. That's why I closed the door.
Easy one to close with. Dogs have about 1,700, while humans have about 9,000.
Senses. Smells.
Yes, humans have about 9,000 forms of stink. No, it's not smells.
Do dogs have 1,700?
Let's see. Dogs have about 1,700, while humans have about 9,000.
Ooh.
So we're way better at this than them. So it's like, it's definitely not smelling because dogs, they got that nose.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was going to say habits.
No, it's in your head.
Okay.
I mean, what I'm talking about, the answer I'm looking for is somewhere in your skull, and everything attached to your skull. Dogs have 1,700, while humans have about 9,000. You only have to give up to lose it all.
Hair follicles.
That's a good guess. We were looking for just as many, but probably not as many hair follicles, but something like that with just tons and tons of them.
You're confusing me,
and it's
Scott.
not neurons. All right, I'm looking for taste buds. Dogs have 1,700, and humans have about 9,000. All that money you built up with all those correct answers, all gone.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
So
That's
Greg
just a
says
joke.
Is Greg asking for admittance?
He is. He says, please,
Okay.
please let me into the show. We ran a little long there. Thank you very much, Mr. Mike Bentz.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, we go to break. We come back. We'll come back with the new mayor of Chewelah, Mr. Greg McCunn. Stick around. It's Scott and Mike on a Wednesday, and it's Northern Lights Public Radio from Chewelah, Washington, KCHW 102.7.
KCHW, Chewelah.
Your KCHW morning show made possible by a donation from God-Fearing Brothers Auto Center. God-Fearing Brothers specializes in auto services, including repair, maintenance, and detailing. They also stock tires, provide collision repairs, including glass, and they have an auto sales lot on the corner of Highway 395 and Main Street at the light. For more information, you can visit the Auto Service Center at 806 East Main in Chewelah. Find them online at godfearingbrothers.com or by phone at 509-935-6414.
The Public News Service now newscast January the 26th, 2022. I'm Mark Clifford. As COVID hospitalizations in Arkansas hit their highest levels of the pandemic, the governor there, Asa Hutchinson, is asking the state legislature to allocate funds to open up more beds.
On Monday, Arkansas reported more than 1,800 people hospitalized for COVID-19. A record high, Hutchinson says, is straining the healthcare system. In his weekly news briefing Tuesday, he called on the Arkansas Legislative Council to approve $4.7 million in American Rescue Plan funds to allow the University of Arkansas for Medical Sciences to purchase and staff 28 additional hospital beds and 7 ICU beds.
Even though we hope the hospitalizations will decline, the number is still very high, and it's really causing a backlog and a challenge for our ambulance drivers, those that are bringing patients to the emergency rooms. We're challenged there, and we need to have that relief.
Despite record-shattering hospitalizations, active cases appear to be on the decline. The state is averaging a little under 8,000 COVID cases per day, according to Johns Hopkins University. I'm Emily Scott.
On Tuesday, the governor also announced a new partnership between Arkansas State Police, the Arkansas Department of Transportation, and phone carriers that creates a non-emergency hotline for motorists. If you're in that state, dial star 277. Advocates for working families say the child care crisis is undermining the stability of many households in states like Ohio.
At this week's meeting of the Ohio Children's Legislative Caucus, Chelsea Keeney with the group Groundwork Ohio shared polling that confirms child care challenges have disrupted the jobs of 1 in 3 working parents, affecting their workplace attendance and performance. Among those with kids age 5 and under, Keeney says 1 in 4 parents had to cut back on work hours to care for them.
If the pandemic of the last 2 years has been a tipping point, then the Omicron variant of the past month has really been a breaking point, especially for parents with children under the age of 5 who aren't in school and aren't able to get vaccinated.
In the poll, 80% of Ohio voters said childcare is expensive in their community. Currently, center-based infant care is roughly $10,000 a year. That's 43% of a single parent's income. Availability is another challenge. Last year, 1 in 8 childcare jobs was lost in the pandemic. Mary Sherman reporting.
And from CNN, a rapidly intensifying storm known as a bomb cyclone could bring crippling winter weather across the northeast and mid-Atlantic this weekend. CNN reports the storm expected to move up the East Coast Friday into Saturday. Its location in relation to the coast will determine whether there's a wintry mix or a foot of snow. This is PNS. What is a riot and what's a protest? That's the question before the Wisconsin legislature Tuesday as lawmakers debated and passed a bill to set new law enforcement standards for unlawful assemblies.
The bill would categorize as a riot any unlawful assembly where a single person either commits or threatens an act of violence or engages in violence that, quote, substantially obstructs law enforcement or another governmental function, unquote. Representative Francesca Hong, a Democrat from Madison, thinks the bill would target peaceful protesters.
It puts forward increased penalties while simultaneously paring back the rights of peaceful protesters and opening them up to criminal exposure for the misdeeds, the missteps of others.
The bill would make attending such an unlawful assembly a misdemeanor with a sentence of up to 9 months in jail. Republicans argue it would prevent property damage like that seen during protests in 2020 after the murder of George Floyd and shooting of Jacob Blake. This is Jonah Chester reporting.
And time was when someone told you now you're cooking with gas, it was meant to be a compliment. But now research shows that using a gas cooktop or range can introduce dangerous pollutants into your home.
The Arizona PIRG Education Fund asserts many retailers fail to adequately inform people of the dangers cooking with gas and should warn them at the point of sale. Diane Brown, director of Arizona PIRG, says an open gas flame can release carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, formaldehyde, and particulate matter into a home kitchen.
Running a stove for as little as 1 hour can lead to concentrations of unsafe pollutants that far exceed health-based standards.
Arizona PIRG wants retailers to put mandatory product safety warnings on all natural gas stoves. The group points to data from a 2020 study by medical and environmental groups that find natural gas contributes to climate change as well as air pollution in confined spaces. I'm Mark Richardson.
And finally, Roz Brown lets us know a wildlife corridors action plan for New Mexico identifies 11 priority safe passage projects.
Garrett Venny-Clausen with New Mexico Wilderness Alliance says the state has a high number of hotspots for wildlife vehicle collisions, partly because climate change continues to compromise historic wildlife habitats.
We're seeing all animals having to travel further for dependable food and water. Elk, deer, and other wildlife are being drawn into urban areas because of food availability.
The Wildlife Corridors Action Plan is a joint project of the New Mexico Departments of Transportation and Game and Fish.
The Federal Wildlife Crossing Program was included in the bipartisan infrastructure package that was signed into law last November. This is Mike Clifford for Public News Service, member and listener supported, heard on great radio stations, and find our trust indicators at publicnewsservice.org.
That was so awesome. I got to tell Mike Bentz to be quiet. I can't talk?
You
can't
Scott,
talk.
I have a theory that says you have 2 ears in the mouth. Use them proportionally.
What do you mean I can't talk? All right, here we go. Good morning. It's KCHW 102.7, 8:15 now. Thank you for being with us. And I turn things over to my co-host this morning, Mike Bentz. Mike, who have you brought us to the radio, to YouTube, and to Facebook?
And worldwide.
Worldwide, that's right. Worldwide.
No pressure.
No pressure.
Anyway, so this morning we brought on our brand new mayor. Well, you're no longer new because you've been there a month. So, Greg McCunn, and we just thought it'd be a great to maybe touch base, see how things have been going over the last 30 days or 40 days, whatever it's been. Because you kind of took, you didn't really take over, but you started transitioning into the position back in December, from what I understand. So, right. Which I think was great, by the way, because they just didn't drop you in the middle of the lake and say swim, sink or swim.
Thank you, Dorothy and Jim Crusoe.
All right.
Yep. And I thought it'd be a great time to maybe catch up a little bit. And I know that you had several points that you wanted to bring to the city over your term. Yep. And I think that's really, but to begin with, one of the things is, you've been sitting in that seat now for almost 4 weeks. What's the revelations? What's the number one thing that jumped at you that you didn't know was
revelations? Coming? As anybody would guess, it's definitely drinking through the fire hose. I'm really fortunate. I mean, Dorothy and Jim did a ton of pre-work to make whomever would sit in this seat the transition as smooth as possible. So I couldn't be more thankful for the pre-work they did. And kind of as you referenced, having the month of December, after the election was certified, to kind of plug in and just really spend a lot of time absorbing was a good start. But I think the biggest help to the learning curve so far has really been the city staff. I've been joking in the office that, they're teaching me how to fish because I'm coming at them with all these questions, and rather than them answer it for me, help me find the sourcing myself so that, I'm learning and kind of catching up with where they are in terms of the knowledge base. So that's been a tremendous help getting on board. The blessing has been coming forward from the campaign. It was so clear what our citizens, the areas they're interested in, that, I'm continually trying to brand the 5 buckets that literally led to me being mayor, and those being business, economic development, communication, celebration, youth, and enforcement / enablement, which we'll certainly go into in our conversation. But our team here in City Hall is fully aware of those buckets. They're on the board in council chambers. We went over them in the first council meeting. The leadership team for the city is familiar, and everyone's kind of charged with answering the question, how does my role intersect with these different buckets? And at first glance, you might not think the fire chief and his team folds into one of these buckets, but after a little bit of thought, you find very quickly that we all do. And so I'm excited about that, because we've had chances to go to different community gatherings. Last week, Jim and I were at the chamber and highlighting each of those 5 buckets. I hope nobody gets tired of me talking about those 5 buckets, but truly, I want to follow through for what everybody told me they wanted to have happen, the areas to focus to be, and these are clearly it. So.
Yeah. Well, I know one of the things that's really kind of near and dear to mine and Scott's heart is youth and how to keep youth active in the community. And I think the other side of that is how to keep them in the community. So any insights or directions you've started on that?
Yeah, well, insights are daily. And one of them is that the overlap, you've got these giant buckets of business, economics, celebrations, communications, youth, and enforcement. But the interplay of each of those and the overlap is pretty impressive. So here's an example. I'll give you a couple examples under youth. Coming in, it was clear that for new moms and dads, we had a gap in daycare. For the teen space outside of school and athletics, we had very little to offer the community. But you jump over to business economic development, we've also got a housing shortage. So while we hear of many people seeking to live in our wonderful community, we don't have a whole lot of inventory to support it. So, I'll elaborate on the housing piece a little bit later, but on the youth front, seeing that it's really interconnected, that while we have to have infrastructure for development, we need infrastructure and housing for families to increase the capacity for the different activities we want to drive. I think in the specific areas, like Jim and I have been working to outreach to understand the different opportunities that exist and the needs that exist. And we had a meeting yesterday with the 2 individuals, Bill Shazenbach and Kay Batten from the Recreation Board, who is the oversight board for our bowling alley. And the reason we reached out to them, that's an active youth activity. But the future of our bowling alley is a little bit in question. It's been part of our community since 1946. It's one of 6 nonprofit bowling alleys in the entire United States. And being a nonprofit comes with its own challenges. It really means that bowling alley is a community bowling alley and thrives on community support and is self-sustaining. Layer on 2 years of COVID, layer on changing demographics and kind of a stagnant growth in terms of our population, changes in school budgets. that took advantage of the bowling alley have a direct impact on that future, let alone staffing for maintenance and upkeep, which for the age of that bowling alley is a certain skill set that Tom and Tammy have really blessed our community with for working in that for a number of years. So what we're, at this stage, and you know, I'm a kind of a results oriented guy, but in the first 4 weeks, what we're really trying to do is assess the field. What are our immediate needs and opportunities in like the youth bucket, bowling alley is an example. And then what I think people are going to start to feel as we move into this quarter, more of an outreach and an invitation for engagement, because, you know, none of this happens because of the mayor. None of this happens just because of city council. It's literally all of us coming together and the different component parts making decisions and taking action for the community. So we'll be talking about results in the near future, but right now it's kind of an assessment of the landscape and what the needs are.
So what you're doing right now is kind of like yesterday, I went into City Hall to take care of some personal business, and my voice carries, kind of like Carissa's. And
yeah, you and Jim have that in common for sure.
That's right. And Brenda heard my voice and comes out from her office saying, "Hey, Greg needs to see you." I just sent you an email, but I can, you know, you're here. I can
right,
like, right now.
Yeah. Just
and so I'm going to see you tomorrow morning. But so that's part of what you talked about, of talking to certain people within the community to try to pull everybody together.
Yeah.
And have some common thread, I guess.
Precisely. I mean, everybody, you know, I've said during the campaign, I'll say over and over, we have no lack of talent or volunteerism or drive in our community. But literally we're better together. So meeting with you tomorrow, talking about the creative district, talking about the bad team and how we're marketing and advertising. Last night we had a meeting with Eric Bakken and Garrett, who is his new marketing lead for 49 Degrees North. And this is that step of saying, okay, well, we talked about a lot of exciting things on the campaign trail. We're all pretty energized and feel like we're at this unique precipice, stepping through to our future. How do we make that real? And how do we put some legs underneath it, I guess, is the phase that we're in right now. So like I said, I think that first has to do with meeting with each of the respective groups and different leaders. We have many, and then following that is going to be kind of recruiting teams within our community, kind of according to the areas of focus, to take action and define next steps. I think another piece, and maybe this would be helpful for listeners, you know, I'm learning about how city government works. And how it can be most effective. But, you know, the decision-making body in any city is the city council. And we have various committees that I get to appoint leadership and members of that drive a particular focus. So we have, for instance, an economic development committee. Well, the best case scenario for progress is that we've got really strong synergy between that committee and the Chamber of Commerce per se. That's where we're going to get things done. But we need to maintain, and one part I can particularly play is maintain a cohesive single conversation of awareness so that we're kind of traveling down the same road, checking off the same boxes as we, you know, seek to improve and build the future that we want.
Yeah. All right. So if we start looking at celebrations, you know, one of the things that I remember from a couple of years ago, the chamber put together a rack card on events. Mm-hmm. And at that point in time, there were over 100 events that we could identify on an annual basis in Chewelah. And a lot of that, of course, went away because of COVID. I think people focused in on Chautauqua as the primary event. In fact, I know they did. And that's not going to come back in the same form. There's just no way, you know, from what I understand, liability wise and a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah. So one of the things that intrigued me, I think at the chamber meeting, either you or Jim mentioned at the end of July, there's going to be like a bicycle event coming here. And so how are you pulling that together, or how are you outreaching to get more events back on the docket?
Well, I get so energized by this stuff, and we'll talk about it when we meet tomorrow, but like seeing that list of 100 events is going to be exactly the type of thing that, I'd love to get eyes on, because when you look at our community and the activity and the energy behind it, I mean, to have 100 events across a year is pretty remarkable. The Cascade Bicycle Group, well, let me back up, because it starts with Chautauqua. We have 40 plus years of an incredible event that was homegrown and organic. I mean, it is such an accomplishment to have that longevity and that success. Obviously, that has changed, but we'd like to see seasonal celebrations come back. And when I was learning about Chautauqua, and I have much, much more to learn, I think we all do, from their good work, I was talking to Justin George, and he was telling me about the 36 Little League teams that came that same week and had their tournament, and that hadn't happened since COVID struck. But what the idea spawned that I want to share is one of an adjacencies. So what types of things? I mean, Chautauqua in a Little League event, I mean, let's do some rough math. 36 teams for a Little League event. You've got players and parents. I mean, we're talking hundreds and hundreds of people coming to our community for a Little League event adjacent to Chautauqua. And when you do these events, you want to stir up that sense of community. You want to define and celebrate who you are, but you really also want to give this giant economic boost to Chewelah. And so when we can find adjacencies, things that have their own inertia, they're going to happen whether we do anything or not, or just with a little encouragement, they'll happen, like 36 Little League teams having a tournament. We can encourage that. But how do we build something adjacent to it so that we're filling out those particular celebrations? So Jim was contacted by the Cascade Bicycle Group out of the west side of the state. They're a statewide association, and they had in the past chosen Chewelah as the starting point of their annual event, which is kind of right around Washington, or to that effect. So what they're going to do at the end of July, we're going to have 250 to 300 cyclists arrive at our park. They're going to be tents and use our park as kind of their beginning and end of these different loop rides that they're going to do over that week. They're going to spend a couple days in Cheney, then they're going to come back here. And in the spirit of that adjacency concept, we're thinking, well, summertime, late July is probably realistic, where we could probably marshal the teams and the energy to start a celebration. What if we grab that event as our adjacency? And so whether before or just after, we move from that fun activity and that level of energy, which clearly defines something we care about, and that's outdoor recreation and cycling, and expand upon it. And so, then you start to get into the brainstorming of what does a summer event look like, and what are we all about? And that's when it gets really fun. So we're right now at the stage of kind of connecting dots and socializing those types of things. Like I said before, the next step is we're going to have to tap community leaders who are passionate about that segment. I mean, we've got tons of people who really are deep into cycling, deep into mountain biking. We need their help and their leadership to help execute something that could use that adjacency to help us launch a summer festival.
Okay. All right. So one of the intriguing things to me is when you talked about enforcement, which you're changing that over to enablement.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find a little more encouraging word.
Right. Enforce. That's what Scott does. He enforces me, but I.
That's right. He tells you to stop talking.
It's nice to have a little power.
You're right.
So what do you see as the transition point? I mean, how are you going to make that work?
So the enforcement / enablement bucket, the code that we have truly enables us to do what we want to do. Think of our municipal code as kind of this lattice of infrastructure that helps preserve and protect how we want our community to run and function. Code affects development. Code affects infrastructure. Code affects beautification. It affects safety. code affects homelessness and how we manage that. So it's a very large bucket. I think, and I hope that every word I say isn't like written in stone now that I'm the mayor, but I really think that we're going to at some stage need an enablement officer. Enforcement officer just does not have a good ring to it. But, you know, somebody that's charged with owning leadership in this bucket as a functional role for our society, because we need to have consistency. When we develop our downtown core on Main Avenue, we need to have consistent code enforcement. You know, it's not all warm and fuzzy. There's some pain points with that. I'm a local developer in my personal life, and as over the years, we've increased our consistency of what the code says and what that looks like, and our seriousness about that enforcement. There's expenses associated with it, but the end result is we end up with a consistency, not only from a safety standpoint, but from a beautification standpoint. I personally think of towns that have done incredible work of developing a consistent look and feel that preserves who they want to be. I mean, our Washington example is probably Leavenworth. I don't want to be a Bavarian town. I don't think anybody else does either. But we definitely have, you know, you look down our Main Street. I was talking to Garrett, so Garrett's marketing 49 Degrees North. He comes up from Texas, Texas Tech, not UT. I made a big mistake last night. And he said, when you turn at that stoplight and you look up that Main Street, he said, that's a skier's dream moment. You're headed to and up the mountain. You're going through this beautiful historic downtown. And I thought, isn't that cool? Someone from outside really capturing an experience we enjoy daily. Well, that exact thing is what code enforcement preserves, so that when one of our buildings on Main Street is restored, those codes help preserve that historicity and the consistency, so that look doesn't go away. How many photos have you guys seen that include that picture?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right
I got one on my Facebook page and it's beautiful. It's the downtown at night, and there's no cars or anything, and it's right up the highway, you know, past the church. It's an awesome shot, you know, and you see that. I think that's probably, other than the old barn as you wrap around Quail Hollow there, I believe it is, or in the back by the high school there. I think those are the two most pictures taken in Chewelah, is that barn and up Main Street.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I think the secret is, how do you develop that without the gentrification like you see in Leavenworth? I'll pick on them.
Sure.
And because that's a consistent thing I get back when we started with the creative district. The big fear I heard from the public is we don't want to turn into a town like that.
Right.
And we don't want to gentrify the town so people can't afford to be in the town.
Right.
And maintain the culture of the community. I mean, things like that.
Yep.
And so to me, the challenge will be, how do you develop economic growth and still preserve the culture of the community? Because and you've said this several times, there's a fair number of outside investors now. They're starting to look at the town as a whole for development, and that gets me back to what you talked earlier. It's a code enforcement thing, or making sure you have the right codes in place.
Yeah, it starts with having the right codes, and then it comes to enforcement, because you can have all the codes you want, but if they're not enforceable, or you don't have a mechanism to enforce them, then they're kind of worthless. We've got, we have kind of three buckets of need in our community. Let's just tackle like housing, for instance. I think of it in terms of kind of low-income housing, middle-income housing, and then senior housing needs. And I think, so a few things going on there. These are just kind of updates of things that are happening already. We're launching a study, grant-supported study, to look at and do a full professional assessment on our housing inventory needs. And this is particularly looking at what are the low-income sectors and how do we do that? Where are some good examples of where that's been a success for residents? We already have developers looking at development in that middle range. And we also have developers who have already broken ground to look at kind of more of a 50 and over type development community. So I'm confident that we're going to be addressing the various different needs. That will help us mitigate some of that future, because it is, I mean, as I went through talking to so many people during the campaign, no one disagreed that change was coming. No one disagreed that growth was happening. The number one thing I care about is that we are stewarding that growth well. How you do that is going to be something for all of us to learn from. What I've seen early on is we are being very proactive, meeting with developers. We're going to be very proactive, meeting with new businesses. I'll give you an example. The old sewing factory has sold. Maybe some of the listeners hearing us this morning don't know that. We're very fortunate. The gentleman who purchased that is looking at it from an investment standpoint. However, we were invited over for a tour and asked our input. So a developer's asking us, what does your town really need? Because we're going to flip this this building home.
What was inside of it? That's what I want to know. What's inside of it?
Well, I'll tell you,
Okay.
If you get a chance to go inside that building, I was absolutely blown away. To rebuild that building today is well over $1 million.
Wow.
Now, driving by, it's just kind of this big, ugly box, right? There's no windows or anything. But the structure is sound. You've got basically two giant floors that mirror one another. And if you imagined giant rooms with rows of sewing machines in them, there's every station has its own pressurization line that comes down to it. But they've got it all cleared out. And so it's really kind of a blank slate right now. And as we walked through, we probably touched on 30 different ideas of how you could invest and give that building some new life. So some good things are going to happen there. But in that proactive stance, you're part of the conversation. We can't tell a developer what to do with their investment. But when you're part of the conversation, and particularly in this case, where they're really asking and searching for what the community needs, then we get to be part of what that future looks like. That has big implications because that's our quasi-industrial park. And so how do we build that out? You could, the contractor who's doing the work, he had the idea, he said, it'd be really cool here is a hunting bow manufacturing plant and a bow range. And when you walk in that, you're like, absolutely, that would fit. And it would also fit our brand, right? So do you build it? Do they renovate it to suit someone like that? Or do they do the butcher block to it, right? Do they flip it and do some really cool apartments inside all this space, which is very doable. So
you could actually, as you're talking here, I'm thinking of years ago, I had a client of mine that owned a archery and bow manufacturing plant.
Yeah.
And they just did high-end compound bows and, stuff like that on special order. But he had a big barn that they bought this farm and they converted over to this manufacturing, very skilled labor.
Yep.
So the wages were a little bit higher because of that. And then the top half of the barn, in his case, he had converted to rentable storage units, kind of like getting back to, I don't know if that's a good idea, but, that to be part of the housing, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So, but I mean,
I think the message is, and it's not just for us in City Hall or even just leaders of different groups in Chewelah. It's really a message that, we should all get out there and ask questions. When we see a new neighbor, we need to know them. When we see a new business, we need to visit that business. I mean, part of it's being in a small town. I think we want to welcome them. But the other part of it, they get to learn about what we care about in that interaction. And, they may be soft touch ways, but in stewarding that growth and trying to be part of what the future looks like, that's one of the best ways it can happen. So from my office, we're in. We're already making house calls. We're visiting businesses, and trying to create those partnerships with key stakeholders that will help us navigate in the future.
I have a question. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, I was going to change the topic here. So if you got a question,
it'll kind of fit in there. One of the things it was said to me, and it sounded good to me, is somebody said we're going to be the next Sandpoint, And you kind of look at Sandpoint, it's a very artistic community. I mean, take a look at the amount of nonprofits geared toward the arts that Chewelah has. I mean, and then even compared to like the biggest town in Stevens County of Colville. I mean, we outrank them in the amount of nonprofits. There's like 50 in Chewelah. It's crazy. A lot of them are arts oriented. Do you see, I mean, when you go to Sandpoint and when you think about it, it still has that small town feel. But it's also a destination. Do you think that's kind of a good model for us?
You know what I think? I think there's yes is my answer to a degree. You know, Chewelah is its own space. I don't go to any place in Washington. In fact, I live here because I haven't been anywhere that has so many unique features like Chewelah does. You know, we talk about looking up Main Street. For me, my breathtaking moment every time I come into this valley, as soon as I crest that hill and I'm looking out over the whole thing, that for me is just a magic moment. I think Sandpoint's a great community for us to look at and say, what do we want to duplicate from that success that's, that has part of our future, but I think it's going to be component parts. I was talking to a developer, actually Mike Bellevue, just last week, and he had visited Palouse, and he was talking about some of the accomplishments they had made as a small, rural town. And we endeavor to actually go and visit some of these places and just kind of do some road trips, harvest ideas, and pull the best of what they've done and then incorporate it into the Chewelah culture is kind of how I look at it. I don't want to be somebody else.
Sure.
To your point. Well, who else has 50 nonprofits? And you guys are giving me all these statistics, and I'm taking notes.
So you write things down.
I want us to have, I've been calling it a pitch deck. We've got so many great things to offer. And where we have 100 events per year, or we have 50 nonprofits, or we have 10,000 cars that go through that intersection north to south every single day, or we've got 6,000 skiers a week. 6,000 at 49. You start to grab all of those statistics together, and I am so confident that we can go strategically to different businesses or entities that we want to encourage their attention here. And we just start to point those things out. I mean, everybody knows the old adage that the number one lesson in marketing is location, location, location. We've got everything and more there. So I'm envisioning we're going to be starting to work on with the Economic Development Committee, kind of how do we create our pitch deck? How do we want to sell ourselves? What do we want to highlight? And then who do we want to attract? Because then you're telling a story. And I think it'll be a fun journey. But we got to get it defined. And then we got to socialize it so we're all talking that way.
Right. Well, and I think the opportunity is to get all the players together. And I know you're working on that.
Yeah.
To make sure people are on the same page.
Yeah.
And they complement versus contradict each other.
Yeah.
Or duplicate, that becomes an issue too. And I was thinking about that. I don't know if you've ever seen there's a video the Chamber did called Jewel of the Northwest.
I don't know if I've seen it.
And I think I have that. I can send it to you.
Please do.
What they do is it was a production video done by KXLY, and they focused in on Chewelah being the jewel of the Northwest. And so it's got these economic drivers. You've got the casino, you got the ski area, you got the golf course, you got downtown Chewelah, all centered around the idea that Chewelah is the southern gateway to the Colville National Forest.
Yeah.
So it becomes a destination marketing thing.
Yeah.
But and I've thought about that a lot, and I've talked to people saying, you want to have controlled growth because you don't want what you don't want. I mean, that type of thing, But on the other hand, you want to bring people in because those outside dollars are what's going to contribute to the growth of the community. I think this community does an excellent job recycling the dollars internally. I mean, it's very community oriented. I know the Chamber promotes the Chamber bucks all the time. And, I know at least at the golf course, we've got a policy that if we can buy it local, we buy it local. Even down to the point that if it's within 10% of what we can buy it elsewhere, if it's a little bit more money, we're going to invest that money locally.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people, that's the way they think. So, but what I wanted to bring up, one of the things that you did, I think a week ago, is you had kind of the letter from the mayor in the Independent.
Yeah.
And I really like that. Not to put you under, throw you under the bus to do something, but is that something you're planning on doing on a relatively consistent basis?
Yeah, yes, is the answer. The cadence I haven't quite defined yet. I'm just learning so much, in this, halfway through week 4. But with the communication bucket, in fact, we had an all staff meeting, and when I get to the communication bucket, I always like to remind everyone, communication is just a bugger. Good work has been done in communication. Tireless work over the last 8 years, and yet it's not done. And yet there's still a big gap of people who simply don't understand, the good things that are going on right now or the good things that are coming. So you're just always working at it, but we have to own it. And, as far as my office and administration, we own it. We're going to be at this. Doing articles like that, I think, is one good way. Jim Caruso, our city administrator, is helping us investigate training that will increase our game from a social media standpoint. That's it's a bigger challenge for a municipality. You can't just jump on Facebook. So we're going to do some education in that space, because I want to do that in the Independent, but how do we amplify it beyond the Independent? How do we reach further than the Independent reaches? I certainly would see at least a monthly input through the paper. That's the best means we have right now to communicate to a broad audience. So you'll see a lot of that. And I had a fun time writing it. I like people to kind of have the inside look that I'm getting, and also know what the mayor's thinking about as we grow.
Okay. All righty. So as we wrap up here a little bit, what do you want to emphasize?
Well, I want to stay with communication, maybe as we close, because I want to forecast what's coming. We've, in the different groups that I've touched over the last year, we've been talking about the comprehensive plan. We've been talking about car pay. We've been talking about the sub-area and housing plan. And I know right now, as I say those words to listeners, many of them are kind of going, what exactly is that? Well, I can point you to the city website, and I can say, you put in the search window, comprehensive plan, you're going to come up with a 147-page document. Now, I can tell you right now, that number just scared all the listeners off from going to the city website to look it up. So I've charged our planning team with, okay, let's get the citizen-friendly version of these out there. Let's take each of these giant plans. They're very sophisticated, and it's not, they need to be. I mean, they're well-done plans. But each one of these enables that future that we want. They're community-driven plans, they're community-informed plans, but they've got to be consolidated in a way that if we go to a chamber meeting and we want to apply for a grant, for instance, where being congruent with the comprehensive plan is important, everybody needs a kind of a cheat sheet, right? What is the comprehensive plan? What are the key points that I find in that document? And what are the 5 deliverables that I could learn about? Then you can go hunt that down versus read 147 pages. So that work has started. As this matures, I think we'll probably be looking at the end of this quarter at different events and things like that. We'll be referencing it to get it in the hands of people. That could be as simple as a 1-page or 2-sided, or it could be 3 to 5 pages, depending on the plan. But this tackles everything from a walkable city to economic development, to how are we zoning so that we have the right housing capacity to fit the need that we want to fulfill, but not set ourselves up to be kind of sprawled out all over the valley. So it's all in there. The previous administration and the citizens of this town did tireless work to create those. We just need to find a better way to get people to understand them. So when we go after something, we've got a better chance of getting it.
Right. Well, and I'm familiar with all 3 of those documents. So pulling them together there again, so they complement each other.
Yep.
Because they really do. I mean, each one of those pull, from each other actually. But,
Yeah.
Okay. All righty. Scott, any final remarks?
No, I was just enjoying you handling an interview and me getting to sit back and listen.
see, I'm more the Walter Cronkite type.
That's true. That's true.
And you're more the Bobcat Goldthwait type.
Ah, thanks. I was worried you were going to say Weird Al or something.
Oh, no.
No. All right. All right. Well, we appreciate your time, Greg, for coming in. Any just closing statements, final thoughts?
No, thank you for the opportunity. I'd love to do this again and on a regular basis, like we talked about it prior to coming on the air. I think we could insert some other players from City Hall into the conversation to really spice it up while we increase the ability to communicate. But let's always make sure that we're having fun with everything we're doing.
All right. And just want to remind folks, too, if you joined us in the middle of the interview or, the first segment, too, with Mike as he covers nonprofit activity here in town, don't forget it is always available after our broadcast on our Facebook page at KCHW Radio and on our YouTube feed as well. So if you want to catch any part of today's broadcast, they will be posted there for you. Appreciate your time, Mr. Mayor. Big round of applause for you and your hard work. We appreciate it.
Thank you both.
Okay, all right.
Take care.
All right, and Mr. Bentz, we are looking at about 8 minutes left in the show. Should we spice it up a little bit and do some odd news?
Sure.
All right, here we go. We're getting the bacon and the biscuits ready. Maybe, sort of. Here we go.
Maybe. Slap some bacon on a biscuit and let's go. We're burning daylight.
It's the world of strange. A world gone wacky.
Out here, due process is a bullet.
And some of the scariest people on the planet.
I think you're bluffing. Be afraid. You look mighty pretty when you get mad.
It's your odd news on KCHW.
Just sit back and enjoy the show.
I pulled all the sound effects for this, so I figured we might as well do it, right?
Okay.
All right. Real quick, too, I want to throw out, before we get into today's odd news, we did have a couple local birthdays today, and that's for Liz Fornick and Hannah Russ. There you go. Big round of applause for both of them. Our local birthdays for today from the Lions Club calendar. I need some applause. There we go. All right, we always start off with the news attack, where the first part is real, and the second part's a big fat joke. Can I do the first one?
Oh, yeah. This one's got to be yours.
I didn't know if you'd know what it was. So, all right. Part of the SpaceX rocket will likely slam into the moon in March. It's going to be awesome. And this is how you awaken the Decepticons. You need a Transformer sound effect there or something. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
What do you got?
Oh, then you give me Poland.
Yes, it's perfect.
A car thief in Poland was caught after he was caught on video going through the drive-thru at McDonald's in a stolen vehicle. It's bad enough that your car gets stolen, but when you get it back, it's filled with
what?
McDonald's smell, and we all know what that is.
Old fry and burger smell.
Right.
All right. Survey finds that 95% of Americans share their passwords with family and friends, and these are the same people who would never think of sharing their French fries, unless they're in that car.
Oh, actually, one of my favorite singers, believe it or not, Scott.
Yes.
Elton John.
Oh.
Yeah. Had to cancel shows after testing for COVID.
Testing positive.
Tested positive for COVID.
Oh, sad.
Yes. The Rocket Man has been temporarily grounded.
Scientists estimate that there are at least 50 billion planets in the Milky Way. 50 billion planets in our galaxy, and I had to be born on the one where Kid Rock lives. You could really almost pick anybody you don't like and put that in there.
Put that in there, exactly. Yeah.
I just didn't want to be political again.
Okay. Oh, in another survey, people say that after the pandemic ends, they see themselves doing less handshaking and less elbow bumping. Personally, I'd prefer the headbutt.
Especially if you had a plate in there.
That's right.
I have a buddy that says the same thing. He says, even after this is over, I'm wearing a mask every time I go to Walmart. Probably not a bad idea. 4 and 5 adults believe access to the internet is a fundamental right. I agree. Everyone has the right to bore their friends to death on Facebook. I was, I guess, chastising a friend the other day for putting pictures of their food.
On, say, Facebook?
Yeah, because I'd heard this comedian, and he was so right. He says, these people that take pictures of their food and put it on Facebook, do you realize, 20 years ago, if you would have got your film developed and then were showing people your pictures and it was just food, they would have locked you up for being crazy? It's like, that's
true.
It is true. All right, the last story is really lame, so should we move right on to Wacky But True?
Sure.
All
Let's
right.
move on to Wacky But True.
We don't add anything to these but a sound effect, and Mike Benz gets to kick us off with a good one.
A guy in Romania was fined by police because he was raising an ostrich as a pet in his apartment.
Oh. You know what's the worst part if you have an ostrich as a pet in your apartment is when your roommate says this.
Tastes like chicken.
Or perhaps this.
Would you like some chicken? I've got more.
Where's my ostrich? Okay, sorry. Let's see. On to, Florida. Surprise, surprise. Video went viral on TikTok from Zachary Kesey, who is a North Carolina native, when he posted a scenic video of some gorgeous mountains he'd visited in Switzerland, jokingly labeling the town as Gastonia, North Carolina. Have you ever been to Gastonia?
No.
Okay. I wonder if it stinks there. It racked up millions of views, with most people being in on the joke that it obviously wasn't anywhere near North Carolina. Well, almost everybody. Olivia Garcia, a Florida native, was visiting Boone, North Carolina, and decided that she wanted to go to Gastonia to see where the TikTok video was taken for herself. After about an hour drive to Gastonia, she quickly realized that she was nowhere near the landscape of the Swiss Alps. Once we started kind of going out of the mountains, that was a little suspicious, she said. I'm like, when are the mountains going to start coming back? She said they were 20 minutes out of the way of Gastonia, and then she realized something wasn't right. That's a dirty trick.
Terrible.
All right. I got to play one sound effect for us. Sorry, it's kind of mean. Going to do it anyways. Not really. I just wanted to play it. Okay.
Okay. All right. We're going to talk about attacking squirrels.
Ooh, I like it.
The trial of an Alabama man who allegedly kept a squirrel supplied with meth to make it attack people has been delayed. Mickey Joel Hawk's trial was scheduled to start Monday, but it was continued until February 28th. Hawk faces charges of possession of a wild animal, stolen property, and possession of a weapon by a felon.
Wow, sounds like a nice guy.
Yeah. He was arrested in June of 2019 and will face other charges later. And he was arrested on December 23rd of 2021 on charges of chemical endangerment of a child and tracking meth, as well as drug and weapons charges. Boy, this is the guy you want in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
A manhunt began for him in June 18th of 2019 when the drug bust turned up meth, ammunition, and body armor. Also found was a caged squirrel. Before authorities acted on the search warrant, they were told that Pocket fed meth to the animal to keep it aggressive.
Aww.
The sheriff's office said it released the squirrel into a wooded area.
Wow. And they were really happy, screamed this as they let it go.
Alive! It's alive! It's alive!
And a little wired.
Okay.
That's all we need is a tweaking squirrel. All right. Kathleen Phipps was in shock one morning when she woke up and had an Apple Pay request from a man she had gone on a date with. During their meetup in Nashville, he paid for her coffee. But when their second date fell through due to Kate's busy schedule as a student nurse, he decided he won his money back. He asked that she send him $4 for the drink he had while he waited. I don't know. I kind of think that's okay if she didn't let him know she wasn't coming. Caitlin opened up about the ordeal on TikTok and explained that she wanted to go out with him again, but because she's a full-time student and part-time employee, it's hard for her to find time to date. She called the man trash and delusional and slammed him for his lack of communication and understanding of her intense schedule. Wasn't it her that had the lack of communication?
Exactly.
Since he was sitting there drinking his coffee and waiting, I'm with, as usual, I'm with the dude.
I demand satisfaction.
That's right. We all do. Okay, sorry.
Oh, so are we skipping the next one?
Why? Is it bad? Or just tacky?
Tacky.
No, I think people need to know that about him. Do you want me to do it?
Oh, okay. Okay.
I know I don't know. I know you don't like poo stories. Do you want me to talk about it? But I think people need to know about this guy. Because sooner or later, we're going to have to do something about him.
Okay.
Yeah? All right.
All right.
And this is exactly how weird he is. So.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about the North Korean weirdo.
Yeah. Dictator.
A dictator. North Korea's leader is believed to take his own personal toilet with him everywhere in armored vehicles.
Okay.
Sources claim Kim Jong-un doesn't trust public toilets in case his stools fall into the wrong hands. The sources added his feces must be overseen if they contain information about his health status.
Wow, he's really big on himself, isn't he?
He must be really big on himself. Yeah, personal facilities are supervised by bodyguards, and anyone caught using them would be sentenced to death. It's believed one of the cars in Kim's convoy in Singapore, where he met Donald Trump for an important meeting in 2018, featured a private bathroom.
In the car. Okay.
Yeah. And, you know, all I can think of is this guy's got nuclear weapons.
That's scary.
That's scary.
I mean, is that nuclear weapons? You mean the country or him?
Well, he's kind of the country, isn't he?
All right. That's all I got to say. America, North Korea.
Houston, we have a problem.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's see. This one seems so Florida, but it's really not. Police in China caught a man suspected of stealing $2,190 in lottery scratch-off tickets. How'd they catch him? When he went to turn them in for the cash.
How did they know that he stole them?
Well, I'm sure those serial numbers came up as stolen because they're all online.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really. So as soon as because they always scan them. As soon as they scanned that ticket, they knew it was stolen.
Okay.
Here we go.
The strain was terrific. And impossible though it seemed, he got an idea.
Our last story, Mr. Mike Bentz.
A teacher in Romania was dumped by her boyfriend for revenge. She painted his house and car red after he married another woman.
Oh.
Ooh, the Romanian woman crept into his house at night, painted the walls, doors, and windows, and then attacked his car.
Everything's red, huh?
Everything's red, yep.
That's why when I break up with a woman, I always just count on it.
Release the Kraken.
At least that's all I got for today. Hey, thank you so much for being with me today, Mr. Mike Bentz. Big round of applause for you. And what a stellar job on trivia today. Wow.
I don't know why I was tired when I got up. Maybe that's what I need is a sleepy brain.
A sleepy brain, and then it works.
I don't overthink it.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks for being here today. Don't forget next week, me and Mike will have Mr. Tim Nielsen and Jerry Anderson. He's a professor from Seattle, and he helps the past couple of years with the Winterfest art celebration. So we'll be finding out about submitting your art and being involved in this year's Winterfest at the Trails End Gallery. That'll be next Wednesday at 8. Other than that, any closing words, Mr. Bentz?
Don't forget those tickets to Over the River and Through the Woods.
There you go. Big play. Get out there. And
I got it right.
You did. Get out there and support the Schweel Center for the Arts. There you go. Thanks for being here, Mike.
Well, thank you.
And that's your odd news for
Wednesday.
I could come back later, Mr. Harkin.
Oh, no. It's just parent stuff. It seems that our youngest, Chris, was
on something called acid and was firing a bow and arrow into a crowd. You know how kids are.
Would you like some chicken? I've got more.
Hey, have you seen these toilets? They're ginormous.
I am the swift arm of justice, and she's got a bee in her bonnet, buddy.
Stop! Shit. I'm gonna tuck you in for a dirt nap, you Betty.